Welcome to Deal Talk. My name is Jeffrey Veit, and we're going to talk about buying cars, trucks, motorcycles, motorhomes, boats, whatever big ticket item there is, and how to save some money and avoid the dealer tricks. EV Corner this week. If you live in Nordic weather areas, it can be a real problem for electric vehicles. The cold drains the battery. Slow chemical reactions because of the cold, and it can be significant, by as much as 30 or 40%. You can recharge it, of course, but you still have to take the time to recharge it. And charging times are already a big enough issue without adding to it because of the cold, but it's true. The cold is tough on batteries. But I can remember when you'd be out in the cold and your phone would go dead. If your electric vehicle is dead, unlike a gas vehicle, they can't come jumpstart your vehicle. There's no jumping it. You know, in the wintertime, a lot of times in the north, you get a dead battery and someone come along and, hey, let me jumpstart your car, and I'll help you jumpstart your car. You can't do that with an electric vehicle. You have to charge them. That's it. There is no jump to start it. And it eventually fixes the problem by by charging it, but there's no quick way out of it. No. Despite what the ads and the fake news suggest, EVs are not family vehicles. No, they're not. A family vehicle is convenient and safe and affordable. EVs are none of those. Like most of you know, fossil fuel vehicles can be jump-started, just for a little side note. Don't run your vehicle while it's jumping in, another vehicle. That's something I'll bring up real quick. You can use yours to charge another battery. You can hook the cables from your car to the other battery without that car running, and charge that battery up a little bit. But when you go to turn that vehicle over, the one that's dead, shut your vehicle off. Don't have it running when you do that. And the reason why is because when both vehicles are running, when they start up, the connection causes a misfire of the electronics in the vehicle, and it can burn out stuff in your car. No question about it. It can do electronic damage. Doesn't every time, but it can, and it's not worth taking a chance. When you get to the point it's time to start the other one, just shut it off. Shut yours off, and you're okay. Right? Both vehicles running while the cables are connected is not okay. That's an electronic nightmare. Let's not forget that. The podcast is generally about how to buy, what to do, and what to say, and how to choose. I keep telling you not to buy right now. I've said that a lot of times in the last year and a half. And I noticed that the market, they'll talk about it getting better, then it getting worse, then it's getting better, it's getting worse. It's improved a little bit in terms of the used car prices, but not enough to buy a vehicle. So I was thinking maybe some ideas on how to keep your vehicle going and how to save money on repairs and service in the meantime might be just as good as talking to you about how to save money when you buy one. You already know that I bought my vehicle at the end of the lease. Right now, my car has reached 32,000 miles. I went to the shop for tires. I have tread left on mine, but I start shopping early because tires are expensive, right? And I had a minute, so I checked a few places. It appeared that 4 tires like the ones I had currently would cost me about $900 installed for 4, which isn't terrible, right? That's a couple $100 a tire and tax and a little labor to put them on, right? And I shopped. That was the best I could find for the same type of tire. I didn't go in any off-breed makes. I used the same one Toyota used. I could have gone to Michelin's is where I'd like to go, but that was even more. That was like $1,500. So I changed my plan and I started considering used tires. I thought to myself, if I'm talking about people saving money, let's see what it's involved in saving some money. I'm a bit spoiled, so half-worn did not motivate me, right? I'm not interested in putting any half-worn tires on my vehicle just because they saved me $400 or $500 now. Although I found half-worn for about $50 a piece. You could buy 4 half-worn tires that are takeoffs with about half the tread left for about $200 plus installation and tax. You'd be at about $350. Yep. Yeah, I found a place in Orlando where I live, down in Central Florida, but this place happens to be in Orlando. It's a 2 guys tire place, well-mountain balanced tires for $25 a piece. That's pretty cheap, and they got a good balancer. I mean, it really is a nice place. I went there. Nice people. Very conscientious. A little dirty because it's a tire store, but other than that, great people. I'm telling you, I was really surprised. But I kept looking and I found 4 exactly what I want, 90% left. Some young fella had bought some hot rod tires, and he took his off and traded them in with a tire store with a guy. And the guy I talked with, this guy from overseas that lives here now in America, told me, sell me the 4 tires. Mine aren't really worth trading in because there's hardly any tread left. There was tread left, but that wasn't worth it. And I got all 4 tires for $385. Yeah, installed. Yeah. That's $500 less than the new for sacrificing 10% of the wear. That's 30,000 miles from now. I could do it again and still have saved some cash. If I did it again 30,000 miles from now. The tires were almost 3 years old, but that's well within the limits for tire age, right? I talked to you about looking at this age of the tire on the side, when they were built. It'll tell you the week it was built in and what month, what year, or what week and what year it'll tell you on the side of the tire at the end of the serial number. And these were not quite 3 years old. How could I go wrong? That's a way of saving some money. Don't spend the big money for new tires. New tires are expensive. And I didn't buy some, off-brand that I've never heard of before. I mean, if I'm going to buy tires, I'm going to buy something. I bought the ones that are on it were hand-cooked. That's what it came from Toyota with. That's what I bought again. But I would have also considered Goodyear or Michelin. Obviously, they're the best tires in America, but I don't want to spend $1,500. I got to wait $1,000. Think about that. I'm $500 ahead, and I have almost brand new tires. And I could buy them again 30,000 miles from now and get a total of 60,000 miles worth of tires and still be money ahead. It'll be time for tires then anyway, right? Some people have to have new. It's certainly easier. But if you're trying to control your budget while the economic madness goes on, this is just one of the ways to control vehicle maintenance. I covered some other ways to save on your automotive budget, just like last week's episode on skipping factory certified pre-owned and getting a like model with like miles for thousands less by not paying for certified. And I mean thousands less. And that's what you should do. You should do that whether it's a market's in an atrocity like it is now or it isn't. Those certified vehicles, you get all that stuff, but you also pay for it in advance. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's absolutely nonsense. And you can save thousands. And, let's face it, if you buy the vehicle and you're saving thousands, you're also going to save on interest, save on, lower monthly payment, less sales tax. There's all these other things that come into play that we don't look at that are there. So I'm going to work on that every week to try to come up with some ways to save some money. I bought those tires. I couldn't not do it. I said to myself, I'd have to be crazy to buy new ones, right? It was just too good of a deal. He didn't give me any special deal because I have a podcast or because I'm in, I was in the auto industry. I paid the same place everybody else would have paid. I paid $300 for them, and it cost me $80 to have them mounted. $85 it cost me to have it mounted. Now he charges normally $25, but I had 4, so he gives you a little break if you have 4 tires. And they did a good job, and there's no vibration. They use it's an older style balancer. So what? It's a bubble balancer. It's a good one. It works great. When I was young, very young, really young, I worked at a Goodyear store for about a year, flipping tires. And I know that bubble balancer. It works great. In fact, it's not the old one that I had where I had to lift it up and put it on it, and it looked like a little triangle sitting in the corner, of the shop, and you'd put the tire on it and spin it. This has a machine that spins it, and it balances them right. Turned out great. If they're friendly, what a great place. Yeah, it's 2 guys' tires. But anyway, if you like the podcast, please take a couple of minutes and do a review on iTunes or Google Play, whichever one you use, or iHeartRadio or Spotify. If you've already done a review, I really appreciate it. And don't forget to tell your friends and relatives about the podcast. They'll save dollars, and you'll be a hero. Those of you who'd like some written material to carry with you when you're shopping, and get a copy of The Informed Buyer from Amazon, Kindle, or Barnes & Noble Nook. It's $3. Think about that. It's $3. What else in America is $3 anymore? Holy smokes. Where was I? I was in Panera getting a coffee, and there was a cookie that I liked. Looked good. It was $3.95 for one cookie. That's a cookie. It would have been gone in like 5 minutes, right? And this This book you get for $3 can help you and help your friends and anybody else you come in contact with when they're buying a vehicle. And you can download it to your phone. It doesn't matter if it's a Samsung phone or it's a Apple software or any of them. You can just download it to your phone and you can. It's a video book through, like I said, Kindle or Nook. You can't beat it. And like I said, it's always been $3. It's still $3. How come, you could get it and say, boy, this is crazy. I got gypped out of $3. Think about that. You're not going to say that because nobody's ever complained about it, not one time. It's like the podcast. I don't want to invite any complaints, but I've never had a complaint. I've had people that said, I don't know, how come I got to do this and how come I got to do that, and I have to explain it. But that's not a complaint. That's a question. As you already know from the podcast, dealers have many methods to make it seem like their deal is the best deal. And it looks like less commitment than it is. They can make it look like a lot less than it is. An example would be payment packing. They can make you think your payment went down to $300 a month, and you're thinking, wow, I'm saving some money. You're not saving anything. They extended the term. As a matter of fact, you're probably, in the long run, paying more, and you think you paid less. But because you didn't find out the information, that's what happened. That happens. Supply has always been more than demand until the last couple of years, right? There's always been a lot more vehicles than in demand. But in the last couple of years, that cuts the dealer's sense of loss. It does. They don't worry so much about losing because they only got so many vehicles, and they want to maximize their profits. That's what they're there for. They're a business, right? And I'm not against dealers making money as much as they can as long as they do it honestly. Problem is, there's a lot of them that don't do it honestly. They deceive or they mislead you. Like payment packing is an example. That's downright against the law. But try to prove they've done it. That's hard. It's very difficult. Those tricks they do can be confronted and blocked based on planning and proper due diligence. And what does a person do about it when those problems aren't in one of those categories, though? What if it isn't? What if it's about fast talk or lack of explanation or crazy market? That's the stuff that we protect against through the podcast. But sometimes they go beyond that. Sometimes the problems you have are dishonest, overextended, or complete cunning. These people are just totally flat out and out lie to you. Hard to protect against that, right? Many products and manufacturers have a direct or support line. And in fact, all you can do is email. A lot of companies, not just car companies, well, in fact, not car companies. You go to try to get a hold of some other companies to complain. Good luck with that. They don't want to take the call. That's what it is. It's truly appalling. Many companies have poor service, like CBS Access, DirecTV. Have you ever wrestled with satellite radio? Oh my God, it's a nightmare. Those guys will drive you crazy. One of the worst nightmares I've ever had was T-Mobile. Those people are nuts. 5 times I called to straighten out a problem, and every time they told me they had it straightened out. And I didn't owe them a nickel. I was going to order internet through them, and I canceled within a half an hour of when I ordered it, by the way. And I kept saying, okay, it's all taken care of, it's all taken care of, it's all. I had called 5 times. I keep getting bills. Finally, the other day, this is 2 months later, I get a bill that says, we've got this cleared up. All you owe us is $1.83. Think about that. I didn't owe them anything. I called them within 20 minutes after I ordered it. But they had the nerve to ask me for $1.83. Isn't that something? Anyway, there's a lot of things that are different than they used to be. Like you pull up to get your Starbucks coffee, you have to tell them whether you're going to tip or not as part of the paying for it. Or you go to Pizza Hut and pick up your own pizza, they want to know how much the tip is. Tips for servers when they come and take care of your table and they make sure you have water and they pick up your dinner plate and they deliver your dinner and they make sure you've got all the silverware and they come back and check, make sure everything's okay. Those are servers. They get tipped. The people just wait counters want to get tipped for nothing. And I can't get over it. It's the same with the Panera. It's enough to make me not want to go there. Clerks don't get tipped because they don't do anything except you hand you something. What are you going to give them, 2 cents? Think about it. That's crazy. I'm not tipping. There's the price of the food, which they're paid for producing. A server is a justifiable thing. That's part of their pay. They make less per hour because of it, because they're servers, and then the tip is based on that. A tip stands for, it really used to be in the old days we would give people the tip in advance. It stands for to ensure promptness. And it's about getting your things in time and on time before they're cold and your plates and everything you need to have dinner. Well, that's not about somebody standing and hands you your pizza in a box and says, okay, mark where your tip is here, and then they'll total it up. I'm not giving them a tip for any of that stuff. I think to myself, I have to wait and go in now. I can't do it, order it, and not put a tip because I'm afraid they'll spit in my food or something because I didn't tip them. So I go in and pick it up, and if I don't find out I'm not tipping until I've got my pizza in the box or I've got my coffee in my hand, you know what I'm saying? I always get them to hand me the coffee first before I tell them I'm paying. But here's Starbucks. They're charging $3.63 for a cup of coffee with nothing. That's it, just a cup of coffee, and they want to know how much the tip is. It's crazy. It's the same thing. That's customer service. It's just going to hell in a handbasket. It really has. Not with every company. There's some companies you go in and none of that goes on. You can still walk in an Apple store and nobody expects a tip. You walk in an Apple store and need some help, they'll give you some help and they don't charge you for it. There's companies around that are really good when it comes to customer service. An automobile dealership, CSI, the Customer Satisfaction Index, is just another example of how big business is giving up on this issue along with other issues like fees. Some of the fees are just plain hidden. In many states, fees can be as high as $1,500, maybe even higher, all total. Now, with this crazy market, additional dealer profit, advanced market adjustment can be thousands more. They can say, well, we can only get 10 of these this month, so we're going to charge you $2,000 over MSRP. That's an advanced market adjustment, AMA. Many companies are so big, they don't really have to stress customer satisfaction, right? They reach what I call escape velocity. There's nothing you can do about it. If you don't, or you're mad, it doesn't make any difference because you're not going to change their customer satisfaction base. They've got enough. They just have gotten to the point where they're in control. They've reached escape velocity, so those things become less and less important. They sound caring, but when it comes to the money problem and other costs for the companies, they're all words. Sometimes a car, truck, motorcycle, boat, motorhome dealer can take the same approach to customer service as a subscription company, but the amount of money involved in these issues makes it become more public in terms of awareness. So there are things you can do with a car dealer so that you're not totally out. They have less ability to ignore your complaints than other companies because there's things in the marketplace to help you. What should you do if the dealer lied to you? You made the wrong decision because of the lie. What if the dealership won't make something right with you that they said they'd do when you bought it? Or what if the factory won't make it right? Which is less common, but can happen. It's certainly less common. The factory normally will bend over backwards. Maybe something happened before the purchase or something after the purchase happened in the dealership that you want them to make right with you, right? What if that comes up? Or maybe you weren't told about being over MSRP. Maybe they charged you $2,000 over MSRP and nobody told you. If it's a mechanical problem, you must realize the dealership didn't build the vehicle. You got to remember that when it comes to mechanical problems. They're responsible for your happiness and satisfaction for things that are in their control. And they'll help you with a mechanical problem. There's no doubt about it, but they are kind of at the mercy of the factory if it's mechanical. In the case of mechanical problems, quality, the dealer must follow a specific procedure that's laid out by the factory. They can't skip ahead and just put a new something, cadiddling rod into the vehicle. No, they can't do that. They have to go through a certain number of tests the factory requires before they maybe replace the part or replace a whole transmission. They can't just do it. It's not that simple process. And the dealer can't speed it up. They can't. Nope. On the other hand, if it's an ethical issue, if it's a dollar or a paperwork or a promise issue, that the dealer has all the responsibility, and since it's their responsibility, your happiness has a dollar value for that dealer in most cases. In other words, they'll do what it takes and until it costs more than they're willing to put up, right? When they put it, you might have okay, we'll spend a couple $100 on this vehicle. If it gets up that high, we're not doing it. That's the cost of customer loyalty to them. There's a price on it. I can't stress enough to keep your cool, be reasonable, flexible, and follow the chain of command. I know you think to yourself, well, I'd be so upset by then. I'm going to kill somebody, and I have to agree with you. I understand how you feel. But if you stay within the parameters, things go better always. Talk with a salesperson first when you have a problem. First person. See if they can straighten it out. If you're not happy with how it works, but wait and give them a chance to do that. Because if you don't, they won't make things easier. You got to remember, this chain of command that I'm talking about is a chain. They are all hooked together. We'll follow the chain of command. It doesn't really change the amount of time, but follow it. If the salesperson can't fix your problem, have him get the sales manager, or you call the sales manager or the general manager. If you get the sales manager, doesn't work out, you go to the general manager. You're going up the chain of command. Remembering to be assertive, not aggressive. Yes, assertive, I want this fixed, but not aggressive. You're no good, dirty, rotten. That stuff doesn't work. You can, throw things around and shake your fist, and that doesn't do any good. Sometimes, if you threaten anybody, they can just tell you to pound salt and leave your car sitting in a parking lot and never touch it. That's the law. You got to be careful about that stuff. If they don't call you back within 1 day or sooner, call the dealer principal. Yep, call the guy that owns the store. Like if it's AutoNation, you can call the AutoNation headquarters in your region. You can look it up in the phone book. If things don't get straightened out by the dealer within a few days, because you got to give him an extra day, right? A little more time for a call back, because the dealer is, he's got other things going on, obviously. If you give him a little extra time until the next day or whatever. If they aren't willing to fix your problem, they've not convinced you it's unfixable, or without justification, in other words, they haven't convinced you that you're being unjustified, or they haven't convinced you that there's a reasonable reason why it can't be fixed. There is no reason for something not being fixed. What if nothing works? What if you get to the dealership, you can't get anywhere, but you followed the chain of command? If you finance the vehicle, first thing I recommend doing is calling the bank, whoever you financed it with. They own the vehicle with you. You may have to remind them of that. They can build a fire under the owner of the dealership. Now, the bank try to deflect it, saying, all we did was finance it. We don't know anything about No, you build a fire under the bank. You tell them, wait a second, you're the one that you own this vehicle with me. You people helped me get a loan for this vehicle, and these guys are bad guys, and they're not fixing my vehicle. And you can build a fire, and then they'll call the dealer. Believe me, they may act like they don't want to do that, but they will. They'll get involved. They'll be persistent. They'll get involved. That should get you some additional power. If it's a new vehicle, you call the manufacturer's headquarters too, right away. Yep. They too will get the ball rolling. By now, the problem should be under control and a remedy be on the way. By the time you get to the factory, after you've gone through the chain of command at the dealership, gone to the bank, called the factory, everything should be handled by now. 99 out of 100 will be handled at this point. Maybe more than that. Maybe 999 out of 1,000. A lot. If by some change it's still not satisfactory, though, things aren't going well, you tell the dealer or the manufacturer that you're going to do this, and then you do it. You call the Better Business Bureau. Squeaky wheels get oiled. So the more people and more agencies you get involved, the more heat you create. And that's what we're talking about doing here, making it uncomfortable for them, where the cost of not fixing it is far greater than the cost of fixing it, no matter what it is. If things get out of hand, or the original problem falls under the criminal category, or you've tried all of the other options, you can go to the state attorney general's office. Yep. All dealers are and should be afraid of the attorney general's office. I remember when I was in the business, I didn't like talking to those guys. It's the attorney general's job to help you if you're swindled or cheated, with or without explanation. Be just as persistent with the attorney general. You don't go to the attorney general if your new car doesn't run properly. No, that doesn't help you. Or something else mechanical. But you could if the situation went on for a few weeks where they couldn't get it running right. But you can't right off the bat, because the attorney general will just say, go to the dealer and get it fixed and give them a chance to fix it and all that stuff. They're not going to do something outlandish. And they have not made your vehicle a priority. That will help you get it a priority, right? The AG is more about bait and switch stuff, right? or large money problems like a payoff disagreement. Some states are even better than others for protection from the AG, like New York State. I don't know about now, but when I lived in New York, which is over 20 years ago, those guys were, man, they were like juggernauts. I'll tell you, they were like a pit bull on your foot. Bait and switch advertising is aggressively prosecuted in that state. Now they don't arrest people; they let murderers out on bail, without bail. Places the nut house now, but it used to be really good. The AG is like a juggernaut, at least they were. Florida seems to have settled in behind the scenes. Weak like circus lemonade. They really don't do a good job of this, right? The advertising in Florida is horrific. If things get out of hand, regardless, the AG is worth a call in any state. Yeah, if you get something where it's just a flat out and out lie, come in terms of the deal, yeah, call the Attorney General anyway. Even the weakest Attorney General can help with that. Sometimes just a phone call from the Attorney General will straighten the dealer right out and just they'll come to their senses. If it's an advertising issue or a deceptive issue of any kind, it's also a good idea to call the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. They have authority in every state. They have teams set up to go after dealers for this sort of stuff. Even if your state attorney general is not getting it done, the FTC for the federal government, they can. They have statutes called the UDAP statutes to help them even when hard evidence is missing. The Dodd-Frank Act has been cut to shreds in terms of customer protection, but many of the statutes are still enforceable, and the UDAPs are one of them. The Unfair and Deceptive Abuse and Practices Acts, they still apply. These fall under Section 5 of the FTC, so they can still be enforced. The only one that is unclear at this point is what is the definition of abusive. That one's still unsettled. I believe it has to go through, maybe it's through the courts by now, but it wasn't. In fact, these unenforceable statutes can override hard evidence. When they use a UDAP statute, they don't have to necessarily have hard evidence. Circumstances can be almost as good as evidence for the government in those cases. It's my opinion, unless there's a medical issue, an attorney is the last choice. And you only need an attorney if the methods I've mentioned don't work. You're always better off to handle this on your own if you can. I'm not saying there isn't a place for attorneys, but that's not the time. That's what I'm saying. The best order of approach, give the dealership a chance to make it right through the chain of command. That's the first thing. I don't care what your problem is, go through the chain of command. First to go to the salesperson, no results. Then next to the manager, no help. Then you go to the owner or the GM, if available. The owner would be better. Because they look at you as a lot more than one sale. Nobody else does, but the owner does. The bank would be next if there's resistance from the dealer. And don't listen to the resistance from the bank. You can push those guys. The manufacturer, if it's a new vehicle, you always call them. Always. If it's a mechanical problem, always let the manufacturer know. Better Business Bureau might influence the dealer, but the actual report to them is just another slow mover. So it's not going to help, but knowing that you called the Better Business Bureau can create a little bit more of a bonfire. Then you go to the Attorney General for your state, and then the FTC. The FTC and the AG are last because it will be a slow process. There's so many things that that have to be done in those cases. They have statutes still enforced that can help, but it's a process to it, They are the group of 20 or so rules that can help with strength. Some of them are things like they can help you with, or things like this. I don't read you the whole 20, but non-compliant ads they can get involved in. Deceptions not in writing are still enforceable, even misrepresentations. You buy a vehicle, the engine blows up, a used car, and they implied that it was never going to do that. That we shouldn't do that right away. Anyone fix it? They can get involved in that. Good faith reasons not excuse mechanical issues. Dealers says, I didn't know the engine was bad on the trade-in. Tough. You sold it. You got to make it right. Common practices. Dealers will try to use it. Well, the other dealers do it. That's got nothing to do with your case, what other dealers did. Statements of more than one meaning, like if they make a statement like, we'll pay off your trade no matter what you owe. That's the one that they talk about in the UDAP statutes when they were passed. They're saying in an ad, we'll pay off your trade no matter what you owe. All they're saying is, They're going to pay it off if they can get the bank to loan the extra money against the car you're going to buy to pay it off. They're not going to give you any more for your trade. There's no advantage whatsoever. None. Every dealer will do that. You don't need them to put it in the ad, but they do it in the ad because they're trying to deceive you. Deception on purpose is what we have this podcast about. Reasonable assumptions from being told included, but then charged. The payment includes extended warranty. They didn't tell you it costs you extra, and then all of a sudden you get the payment, and you come to find out they charge you for the extended warranty. You got a case with the FTC for that. They can't do that. They can't tell you it's in the price. No. Written statements that you sign agreeing that other promises are not enforceable. Bull. They are enforceable. Don't care what you sign. It doesn't make any difference. You're just signing paperwork on when you're buying a vehicle. They mean absolutely nothing. Poor timing in the disclosure of information like TMU at the last minute. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Let's say you bought a used car and you're there to pick it up. And you're really happy, excited, and you're going through the paperwork. And the last piece of paper to bring out is the mileage statement. It says, here's the mileage statement. As you can see, it's true mileage unknown, TMU. It's because we don't really know exactly what the real miles are at this point. We just know that this is what was on the speedometer and it's in good shape. They tell you that at the last minute. That not only is against the law to sell a vehicle without a mileage statement, so they're following the law, they're doing a mileage statement. TMU is a legal mileage statement. But waiting to the last minute on your deal, that's against the law. They can't do that. That's covered very hardly in the deceptive practices. Or having you sign a contract without complete explanation. You know all the boxes on a bank contract? Those are called federal boxes. They're all federally controlled boxes. They're supposed to go over every single box with you when you sign it. That's what this means. That's what that means. Here's the amount of money for this. They have to go through that with you. Same with a lease. Buy or lease, either one. Chances are that with the highest percentage of dealers, the manager or dealer will fix your problem if you're assertive, but not aggressive, and patient and reasonable. Dealers do not want your vehicle to break. No dealer that I have ever known wanted the vehicle they sell to break. None of them ever wanted the vehicle to break. None of them. They're going to do it, but, like anything else in life, if you get confrontational, people don't like it. If you push on something, it pushes back. And, even though you can force them, you might win the argument, you can lose the war. Don't threaten or skip the chain of command if you want the easiest, quickest, and most pleasant results. Don't do that. Follow the chain of command. It takes them a couple hours extra, big deal. It's worth it. They'll appreciate it, and it shows you respect the method, and then it makes them want to help you. Whenever you have a problem in a car deal or a motorcycle deal or a boat deal, when the dealer wants to help you, it's always better. And how they want to help you is when you're pleasant. Then they want to help. Sometimes you need legal support like the AG or the FTC. Sometimes it happens. Not as much as you might think. Try to be patient and reasonable because, like I said, 999 out of 1,000 are going to get handled by the time you get to the dealer principal. During these times, I'm not sure what the best way is to get help when you actually do something. But you can, the Attorney General's, I'm sure, is in the phone book, or you can look online, and I'm not sure how you can get a hold of the dealer, but every dealership's owned by somebody. Go to the GM first, general manager. If it's a big chain, especially if it's a big chain, go to that GM. But every chain, like in where I live, there's a chain called the Holler family. They have a main office that you can find out where to call. And you can call their main office, and the rockets will start going off with those guys. Because the owners, they're not particularly good with anything except for they're making it right with you. They have a pretty good reputation there. An example of what I'm talking about is in leasing rules changes in June of 2021. I spoke with the Attorney General's office this week. I've talked to them how many times? Probably 6 or 7 times. I started with them. They did the changes in May or June of 2021, and I was on the phone with the Attorney General and on the email with the FTC and the Attorney General of Florida within a month and a half of it, where they made it so that people can't trade in their vehicle with a competitive source. So if you have a Honda, you can't trade it in on a Toyota at a Toyota dealership or whatever. You had to either buy it yourself or trade it in with another Toyota dealership if it was a Toyota, or with a Honda dealership, it was a Honda. And here it is, 2 years later, almost 2 years, I still haven't got any help. Then to this week, they wanted to know if I'd send in my paperwork. I said, I sent it to you. Oh, That's what I told him a month ago. So today I get another email from him, and it says, "Well, could you send that paperwork?" I said, "I told you, I sent it to you." "Well, that person you said you sent it to, we don't have any record of him working here." So I made a copy of the heading off from his letterhead from the Attorney General's office, and I sent that to him. I haven't heard back from that to prove that they didn't know what they're talking about. It goes to show you, it's like government doesn't really, it's really gotten out of hand. It's not a public service anymore. It's a business. It's a jam. You know what I mean? They just don't care about it. That's something where people had been cheated out of thousands because you got a bunch of manufacturers decided they were going to lock down the trade-ins because cars were hard to get, and used cars were hard to get, and new cars are hard to get, so they wanted to make it so you couldn't trade them in with anybody else because they were hoping you'd give in and just turn the vehicle in, and then they can sell it and make them a killing on it. They're not stupid. That's the only reason they did. They didn't do it for anything else except for greed. That's the only reason that they changed that rule. And they did it all within a month of each other, which is collusion. Nobody's done anything about that one either. And it's terrible. Now, the people that leased since then, if they haven't signed a statement saying, by the way, be aware, you can't trade your vehicle in with a competition which you lease from us. Okay, you tell people that going in, they can say, well, the heck with you, I'm not going to do it. Or they can say, okay, and not expect that trade. But that trade-in profit during this 2 years was significant on every used car. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that manufacturers have, finance companies like Honda Credit, Ford Credit, Toyota Credit, these people have cheated people out of thousands and thousands of dollars. And you read it, nope, the fake news doesn't cover it. They're too busy. They're too busy trying to pound on Donald Trump. But I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe it. These people haven't done anything. It's been 2 years and they still haven't done anything. They couldn't even find the records. They got somebody else charged with it now. Nobody cares. They just don't care. They don't think that this is what they are there for. That's why they have this job, is to help us out in situations like this. If you leased a vehicle, you could have lost thousands of dollars. If I had to trade it on a new Honda or something instead of the Toyota, I couldn't trade it in. Nope. I could sell it to Toyota and they'd give me a big check, but it cost me that thousands towards the vehicle that I might want to go with because they wouldn't allow me to do it. And they didn't tell me that when I bought it. And as a matter of fact, in my case, because I've traded so many leases in, I always ask about that. So the dealer I went with, there's no, I'd never been with Toyota before. He says, there's no chance that I can't trade this in. I can buy it at the residual and trade it wherever I want. And they said, yeah, no problem. Now, proving they said that, I went to the dealer. The dealer said, pound salt, we're not helping you. Yeah, that was Seminole Toyota. They just wouldn't help. They got no way of, there's nothing. That's the manufacturer did that. We didn't do it, which is true. The dealers aren't responsible for that. They didn't do it, but they're the ones that told me it would be okay, so they should go back. They could have made an exception or whatever in my case because I specifically asked, but the truth is they should have made an exception for everybody. There's no way that the public should be taking advantage of this. This is a hill to die on, this one, because this is thousands of dollars for consumers, thousands and thousands of dollars for all these leased vehicles. Now, a lot of people turn them in anyway, sure. But what about the people that normally trade it or sell it or trade it in somewhere else? Oh, yeah, it was tough. But anyway, I get off on a tangent there. It just makes me so angry. I'm just one voice. But this kind of problem should only need one voice, The Attorney General and the FTC should have taken over. They should have handled this. They haven't. It is sad about the lack of law enforcement around the country. It really is. It's dangerous to walk down the street. Look at people walk down the street. They get mobbed all the time, mugged. People are beat up, killed. They let people out of jail before they should when they're arrested. Like the other day, what was that girl that was stabbed 30 times? The guy been out of jail for a month, followed her home, stabbed her 30 times. That goes on all the time. People get beat up for, because I learned a long time ago, if there is no penalty, there is no crime. And we have to remember that. All kinds of public issues are standing alone now. Crazy. Leadership's so important. We don't really have much right now in terms of leadership. The facts, yes, facts prove we don't have much leadership right now. Take the facts you want, not opinions or how we feel. Those don't matter. What are the facts? The facts are we don't have much leadership right now. Manufacturers and the finance companies have broken every ethics rule in the book when they changed the leasing rules without proper notice. That's ethically wrong. They should have to pay that money back to every single lease that matured during the time that rule was changed. Every single one of them should get a check for $5,000. And if they had, that's it, everybody. And that would teach them not to do things like that, right? Don't do that. Bad manufacturer, right? The answer to the question, what do you do if something goes wrong, is follow the chain of command, but as many people involved as possible. Get everybody, call as many as you can in the chain of command. As you move up the chain, you get the attorney, don't skip calling the Better Business Bureau. No, call the Better Business Bureau. Get as many as you can. Call the manufacturer. Leave the FTC and the AG until it really gets bad, because they're not going to do anything unless it's, the others haven't anyway. They're just going to say, well, what happened here? Oh, you haven't gotten known yet? Well, got to go back and do that. Normally, though, by the time you get to the general manager or the dealer, things are handled 999 out of 1,000. It's just important to be assertive, but not aggressive. Be persistent. Wake everybody up. Everybody. Follow up every day if you need. Squeaky wheels get oiled. Well, that's Deal Talk for this week. If you have a question or a request or even a comment, please call or email me. Callers, it's 407-801-4071. That's 407-801-4071. Or email dealtalkpodcast@gmail.com. That's dealtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Please don't forget to do a review and do yourself a favor by getting a copy of The Informed Buyer from Amazon or Nook. Like I mentioned before, tell your friends and relatives. They will save big and thank you for it. However I can help, contact me and you'll hear from me. And remember, every payment you get should be CPI. Complete payment information every single time. The amount, the months, the rate, any required down payment to get to those terms, everything. And every price you get should be all in. Don't let them pull you this, $20,000 plus fees. No. All in. Every single cost required to buy the vehicle. I want a price that includes everything. The tax, the tag, the dealer fees, all options, everything. Every single cost. I want the OTD out the door.